This podcast is brought to you with limited interruption by Rudy Luther Toyota. Whether looking for an exciting brand new Toyota, a certified pre-owned vehicle, or getting quality routine maintenance and service for your vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota is the place to go. Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley. Broadcasting live on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. In the evenings on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. And in the nighttime hours, 1150 AM, KKNW in Seattle. It is the Matt McNeil Show for your Wednesday. Jeff McGillicuddy Stein is going to be joining us here in just a little bit. Patrick is here with us. Hey, Patrick, how are we today?
Doing pretty well. How are you today?
I'm doing okay. I am in the process of, let me try something here. I want to see if I can, because I don't know, and we talked about this. I think I'm only staying on the godforsaken hellscape that's Twitter for a little bit longer, and I'm going to be, basically, I'm going to leave it open because I want, there are people there that I follow that I want to make sure they're not anywhere else, and so I want to make sure when I find out that they're someplace else, I want to be there. But I'm going to stop posting there probably after the election night, because it's just we see what it is. We see what Elon Musk has done with it, and frankly, it is a garbage site now where there's far more ugliness than anything positive on it. So I will say, and I just did this now. You are more than welcome to touch base with me on Threads. I will be live on Threads during the show from here on out. I was on Twitter, but I'm now live on Threads. And by the way, Threads of all of them, I think is the one that's really got the most potential to really kind of take off, because it seems to be a fairly well thought out site, and also the fact that it's piggybacking off of Instagram is also a plus. But you can follow me on Threads. So if you want to interact with me during the show or even after the show, Seattle, Chicago, I pay attention to my socials. As a 56-year-old man, I just said that. Holy God! Anyway, I pay attention to my socials. You can find me there. I will, hit the likes button, subscribe. I don't know what the hell does any of this mean. I mean, I remember there was a day we got into radio and no one knew. I did this because I look like I do. Yeah, bridge troll, radio. There it is. I mean, it was that simple. That was the line. Oh, boy. You're going to be doing voice work. It was one of those things, man. Anyway, hey, one little bit of advice, if I can, to the Democrats. There's two things here I really think you guys need to kind of, maybe, clean up a little bit. The first is that your tone on your email fundraisers, I mean, you are out fundraising the Republicans by 1 billion to 1 at this point. I mean, it is just ungodly how much far ahead you are. But I've had multiple people point out the tone of Democratic, appeals towards donations is a little bit apocalyptic. And it tells you kind of a lot here. When the GOP fundraising emails, you get those, and I see them occasionally. They're super confident. We're about to win. We're about to dominate. We're about to do this. Democratic fundraising emails, we're doomed. I'm 19 points behind. Give me money now. I don't know if that really is the tone you want to set. It's funny because it kind of goes back and forth. And there are some, on the Democratic side, there are some campaigns out of Minnesota where I will see the campaign, and it is a box of cats. The appeals I get, it's like, we're 1 point ahead. We're losing horribly. We can win this. We're doomed. Like, oh my gosh. And I get it. You need the money. But I'm a little bit, it's a little heavy-handed. How about we say it like this? I also say this, and this is another thing too. I was at the gym this morning, and to Democrats who keep running these campaigns where it's I see this with Angie Craig. Now, I am not in the Minnesota 2nd Congressional District. I am technically in the Minnesota 3rd Congressional District, Dean Phillips' old seat. I used to be in the 5th, but they redistricted me into the 3rd. I used to be with Ilhan Omar, but now I'm with Dean Phillips. Oh, yeah, this election, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, but I'm not in the 2nd District. But every morning I go to work out, I see Angie Craig videos. And she was one of the first people that demands Joe Biden leave and stuff. And I know that this is kind of, it's a district that's got a little bit, I mean, I think it's like a plus 1D seat. So there's a lot of Republican areas there. But I don't know if your mentality of, I can't stand the Democrats more, that is really, as a Democrat, you're running against your own party. I proudly stood up against Joe Biden. I can't stand the Democrats sometimes. They can't keep me in control. I mean, I'm sorry. It's been 4 months now of this. And frankly, I kind of see Angie Craig having a speech in the future where she says, the party has left me. And that's the kind of way I feel about it. And I just want to, it's a word of warning I want to put out to all the, if I may, to all the Democrats out there that feel as if this is the tone you should go with in a district. You don't need to do that. You can still be a proud Democrat. You don't have to be beating up your own party, because I don't think that strategy works very often. You lose more Democratic votes than you pick up in Republican votes. And I know it's not a lot. I mean, and you're saying, who's not going to vote for me? I'm sorry. I mean, if I was in that district, I don't know what I would do this election, because it's one thing when it's, okay, I wanted Joe Biden to step aside, he stepped aside. But it's this constant, the Democrats, I stand up to them more than I stand up to the Republicans. And you're like, oh my God. Then why am I having you there as a Democratic representative? Why are you the Democratic representative if your biggest enemy is the Democrats? And there comes a point where you start looking at that ballot and I say, you know what, I'll vote for the Senate race, I'll vote for the presidential race, but then I think I'll skip to my state races after that one. And, like I said, I've seen this play out over and over again. And for the sake of 20 or 30 Republican votes, you alienate thousands of Democratic voters. And I think you need to learn how to be, if you're a Democrat and you want to be a Democrat, then run as a Democrat and just stop with the constant, I can't stand my own party. Joe Biden was horrible, and just like, oh my God. That's how you lose a race. And in a close race, I get it. Your mentality is, well, who are the Democrats going to vote for anyway? Who are they going to? Well, they don't have to vote for anyone in your race. And I mean, it's just, like I said, it's not one day. It's not one ad. Here it is. It's been basically like 4 months of this, I can't stand my own party. And I'm like, okay, if I want to vote for a Republican, I'll just vote for the Republican. I mean, that's it. Or if I don't want, if I got 2 Republicans on the ballot, I'll just leave the choice blank. And I think, like I said, there comes it's a war of diminishing returns. And I just think that if you are in one of those districts, you want to be careful, because if all your message is how much you hate the Democrats, well, then you shouldn't be surprised on election night when the Democrats tell you how much they don't like you. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. But let me focus more on the Republicans today, because I cannot tell you how little respect today I have for Republicans. I can't tell you. It is... I'll get to the fact that Trump was romanticizing Hitler. Yeah, that Hitler. Not Phil Hitler. No, Adolf Hitler. I'll get to as well the story of him not only failing to follow through on a promise to pay for the funeral for a soldier, but the racial intolerance. I get it. First of all, if you're a racist and you like Trump, that's you like Trump because he's racist. You've already forsaken your religion and your quality of life, because the most important thing to you is your racism. That's just the reality. Let's just be honest about it. That if you're a racist, you love Trump because he allows you to be a racist, and that's the most important thing for you. If you're a billionaire who basically just wants to be a bigger billionaire, you love Trump because he gives you all the taxpayer money, and you like that. I can understand that. It's the rest of you clowns I have a hard time with, and I have talked a long time about this Republican delusion syndrome that is out there that is bizarre. That Donald Trump praises Hitler. And by the way, if you've ever followed this guy, this should not be a surprise. And the fact that his former chief of staff, Kelly, basically now has said, oh, no, he admired the Nazis. He admired the Nazis. He admired the Nazis, which 20 years ago would have been the end of his political career. Today, what happened? He says this, and it's a series of, the Fox and Friends guys basically said, well, who doesn't love the Nazis? Yeah, and I'm paraphrasing, but not by much. There's some people, it's like, oh, you just have to ignore that. No. You want us to ignore a guy who is admiring Hitler. No, who has talked about being a dictator. And then there is there are the people who just get quiet and stare at the ground because they know there's really no defense. And then there are the people who come on out and they'll say, yeah, he liked Hitler, but Democrats are zombie Hitler, and I'd rather have a guy who likes Hitler than zombie Hitler. It's that kind of irrational logic process that these people freaking deal with. Hitler. He was on Jeffrey Epstein's child sex plane to his child sex island with underage girls multiple times. Multiple times. He says he wants to be a dictator. He says he wants to do mass deportations. For anyone who's not Christian that's thinking about voting for him, he was out there yesterday saying, oh, we're going to mandate Christmas. That sounds like forced religion to me. He's mentally unfit. The unending lies and lies and lies. If you're still at this point thinking of voting for this man, I can't tell you how little respect I have for you. Because it's something I have said, and I've said this now for many years, now in the age of Trump. You're standing 10 feet higher on the deck of the Titanic, gleefully looking to drown, as long as you can drown after the people you hate more. And you'll do it. And I get it. After the election over, you're going to be the ones that's like, well, I never heard about the Hitler. Yes, you did. And you downplayed it. I never heard about Jeffrey Epstein. Yes, you did. And you downplayed it. I never heard the dictator stuff or his mentally unfit babblings. Yes, you did. And you downplayed it. There's going to be a lot of revisionist history after this guy loses come November, but still, zero respect for you at this point after the Hitler thing. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Let me tell you, you my little boo thing, so I'll give a hoot what you do, say, girl, I know.
The Matt McNeil Show on your Wednesday. Nice to have you here today. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. And reminder, once again, today I'm now starting today. I'm signing in on Threads. I'm on Threads right now, and I follow all my social media, Seattle, Chicago. You can find me on Blue Sky, Mastodon, on Facebook, Progressive Citizen X, Matt McNeil Show. And, of course, you can find me on Threads, and that's where, from here on out, I'm going to stop using Twitter during the show. And if you want to interact with me during the show, it is going to be on Threads. All right? 952-946-6205. All right, I'm going to read this, and it's. Donald Trump reportedly declared it doesn't cost $60,000 to bury a blanking Mexican after receiving the bill for a murdered soldier's funeral, which he had previously offered to pay. The claims, which the Trump campaign has strongly denied, appear in the recent article published in The Atlantic, which detailed the former president's alleged disdain for members of the military. Vanessa Guillen, a 20-year-old Army private, was bludgeoned to death on April of 2020 by a fellow soldier at Fort Hood in Texas. Her burned remains were only discovered 2 months later. Following the tragic incident, Trump invited Guillen's family to the White House, where he described the young woman as a spectacular person and said he would help the family out financially and with the funeral arrangements. However, in meeting in December 2020, Trump reportedly flew into a rage after being presented with a bill for $60,000. Attendees of the meeting told The Atlantic the former president said it doesn't cost $60,000 to bury a blanking Mexican. It also reportedly told his chief of staff at the time, Mark Meadows, not to pay the bill and later accused the family of trying to rip me off, per the outlet. The family lawyer told The Atlantic that no money ever came from Trump. Ever. In statements shared with the independent members of the Trump campaign and former staff members vehemently denied that such exchanges took place. Trump never said that. This is an outrageous lie from The Atlantic 2 weeks before the election, said the Trump campaign advisor. Hey, so you did pay this? Do you have the receipt? Oh, you don't. You didn't pay this. So that's not up for debate. I mean, because notice they say, here's the receipt, we pay this. No, we know at least. Okay, first of all, can I just say, when I hear, and politics is complicated, individual relationships are there, but when I hear this sort of thing about him talking about a woman with Mexican heritage who's proudly serving their military, how is anybody in the Hispanic Latino community supporting Trump? How is anybody? How is anybody in the military community supporting Trump? He's a slime ball. Once again, I want to give you the exact quote. Multiple people said he said, it doesn't cost $60,000 to bury a blanking Mexican. And that's the F word. He said this. And once again, never once paid any money to the family, which he vowed he would pay. So you got him disrespecting the military. You got him disrespecting this Mexican soldier with Mexican heritage, Hispanic heritage. You've got, you have him basically, once again, out there, get the cameras on me, look at me, I'm Johnny Compassionate, I'm going to pay these bills, and he doesn't do it. And yet people are still, you wonder why I look at anyone that was willing to vote for this guy at this point and just say, you're just horrible human beings. You're just horrible human beings. The other big story, John Kelly, Trump's longest-serving chief of staff, made dire warnings Tuesday about what could happen if his former boss wins back the White House and confirmed disturbing comments the former president allegedly made about Adolf Hitler. Yes, that Hitler. Kelly, the former Marine general who also served as Trump's Homeland Security Secretary, spoke to both The Atlantic and the New York Times about his concerns, saying he was motivated to go on the record after Trump suggested he'd use military force against domestic political enemies. As Trump said to chief of staff, Kelly spent more time behind closed doors with the former president than nearly anyone else who worked in his administration. Speaking to The Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg, Kelly was also confirmed an incident first divulged in a 2022 book in which Trump reportedly asked Kelly, why can't you be like the German generals? He claimed Hitler's generals were totally loyal to him. Here's Kelly's confirmation, according to Goldberg. This week, I asked Kelly about their exchange. He told me that when Trump raised the subject of German generals, Kelly responded by asking, do you mean Bismarck's generals? He went on. I mean, I knew he didn't know who Bismarck was or about the Franco-Prussian War. I said, do you mean the Kaiser's generals? Surely he can't mean Hitler's generals. And he said, yeah, Hitler's generals. I explained to him that Rommel had to commit suicide after taking part of a plot against Hitler. Kelly told me Trump was not acquainted with Rommel. And by the way, how about Kelly basically saying he clearly had no idea about anything prior to World War II with Germany? That, but yet he can't be talking about Hitler and his generals. He can't be talking about that. Trump spokespeople have repeatedly denied such a conversation ever happened. Now it's the second time it's been put forward. Kelly also confirmed previous reporting about Trump praising Hitler, telling the Times that more than once Trump told him, Hitler did some good things too. Trump's recent comments about the military against the enemy within are similar to remarks made while in office. Kelly told the Times, saying he repeatedly had to inform Trump that he did not have the authority to use the military against American citizens. Vice President Kamala Harris called for President Trump's increasing unhinged and unstable behavior on Wednesday, warning voters 2 weeks before the election of his desire for unchecked power. Harris's comments come after the Times published a report about Hitler. Hitler. And I get it. Once again, what is your, if you're the MAGA guy. You're not the racist. You're not the billionaire. And you still want to justify it. It's either the Democrats are zombie Hitler. No, that's not true. Hitler wasn't that bad. No, that's not true. Hitler was horrible. Hitler was Hitler. There's a reason why we know who Hitler is, because he was one of the worst human beings this planet ever produced. There are the people that sit in the ground and, I'm not going to say anything. Cowards. And then there are the people who's like, everybody's lying. He never says. Do you know how many people have to be lying about Donald Trump for all of this to be made up? We're in the millions of people at this point. Millions of people have to have been lying for Trump to be wrong. Or just Trump is lying. It's either one person is a pathological liar, a narcissist and a pathological liar who always has to turn the spotlight on himself, or 1 million plus people are lying about him. And the Republicans look at that equation and they say, you know what? I think it's 1 million people. Because, once again, they cannot look at... He validates the worst elements of them. At best, these people are tolerant of racism and will vote for people that encourage racism. At best, they are people who are willing to drown themselves as long as they can see their perceived enemies drowned before them. At best, that's who these people are. At best. And yet here we are. And this election is close. And once again, after Kamala Harris wins in November, there's going to be a lot of Republicans going, I didn't know about any of these things, as they frantically go through their social media timelines and delete everything they can, basically, that shows that, oh, yeah, they knew exactly what was going on. You're just horrible people at this point. You're just horrible, horrible people. Think about what you've done. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
2010, when we were all just kids.
Jeff. J-E-F-F, Jeff. J-E-F-F, Jeff. J-E-F-F, Jeff.
Jeff Stein's our national and presidential expert, noted author. Find his books at your favorite book retailer or totallyiowa.com. The Iowa Business Report, the Iowa Politics Report come to us from his mothership, KXEL Cedar Falls, Waterloo, where he is the mother. It is Jeff Stein. Hi, Jeff.
And you are the ship.
No, I'm more the berg.
It's the other half. You're the iceberg that I'm going to run this ship into, I suppose, and run aground.
So, did you see I specifically posted photos of me eating food for you to basically... So, because it was my birthday last weekend, and so I went over to, got some, good Ukrainian food, and then I had a great breakfast the next day. It's happy times for me, man. And find you a lover that looks at you like I look at a plate of food. Because, that is really the thing that you have to go. If you want to see the photos, I put them up on the social media sites. You can find them there. Have you found...
I was busy today doing my show and then doing a national show, and I say that not to sound like I'm all that in a bag of chips, because you're on in 3, not just 2, 3 major markets. It's just that I'm tired of the sound of my own voice, and it also means I haven't really looked at the socials.
Well,
I'll have to look.
You and I are from a different. We started in this industry editing tape with razor blades, and that's how we started. And now they say we need to put you on camera, and you're like, okay, do you understand radio at all? The whole point of this was us hiding in a booth.
It's really more a matter of, can I use the razor blades to do harm to myself?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm now holy hell, Hannah!
Which one are you looking at?
Well, I'm looking at is this Eggs Benedict?
That's Eggs Benedict over at Saint Annette over in Lower Town over in St. Paul.
There's nothing better than tater tots that look like triangles.
God, there's not. I'm 1,000% agreeing with that. And by the way, that bacon, absolutely freaking delicious.
Oh, my God. Oh, now I have the picture of you looking like you just received a check from the Minnesota lottery.
Oh, you're talking about when I was over? That's a cabbage roll and the deli sandwich, some pierogies, a little sauerkraut on the side.
Man, you are a happy boy.
I am.
Oh man, that one's worse. Yeah, I hadn't gotten to that one yet. What's that thing swimming in blood?
Well, that's tomato sauce. It's creamy tomato sauce. It's a traditional Ukrainian cabbage roll.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, that was on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, man. I got to take you up when you come back up here. I got to take you over there because you're gonna oh my God, this is amazing.
Nobody's gonna let me in Minnesota.
Okay,
You're going to have people. You're going to have people north of Mason City, at right on I-35, and they're going to flag people. And I'm going to get the flashlight. And it's like, you take that exit. You.
No, when it's the time you have to come up and pick up trash on the side of the highway. I'll find a break, and we'll bring you on over there. All right.
Okay, that's good. I will say, Chicago and Seattle. If Matt McNeil says, "Hey, I'll take you to lunch," which you have done in the Twin Cities. Go, because it's always a good thing.
Seattle, I already got, Ivar's is my favorite because I just love clams. I love clams and seafood. Ivar's, I'm a big fan out there. Chicago, my God, how many good meals do I have every time I go to Chicago? It's amazing. Oh, good stuff.
I'm just saying, Matt knows his way around
a plate
of food. And so if he says, I have a place I want to take us for lunch, you go.
There you
Just
go.
do it. Don't ask any questions.
Anytime the powers that be want to fly me to Chicago or to Seattle, I'll do not only this show, but I will also do a complete food breakdown. I will do that in a heartbeat.
Now, the downside is you have to engage in conversation with Matt during the meal.
That's the downside. I mean, that's kind of, it's a little indigestion there, but so tell me about yourself. Yeah, there you go. All right. Enough of the frivolity.
Oh,
all right.
Really?
Okay, because you know what's coming.
I don't, but go ahead. It could be any number of things. That's the problem.
Well, I'm going to Hitler. It's Hitler. Kelly basically is only the Atlantic story and the New York Times story. He did 2 stories on this.
Yes.
He's only repeating a lot of this stuff, which has already been reported in other places. I think there's a 2022 book that was talking about this stuff.
Yeah. This is nothing new, but it comes 2 weeks before the election, and I think the plan, and this is not a criticism, I think the plan is you're going to hear from John Kelly today, and 2 days later you're going to hear from somebody else, and 2 days later you're going to hear from somebody else. Drip, drip, drip to erode those who are somewhat soft and dissuade them from voting for Trump, certainly, but at the very least voting at all. I mean, I think that's the plan, and I think it's a fine plan if you're her.
Well, and I think that when you look at Trump, I think what's happening with some of his aides, his former staff members, is, they sit here, and I think there is this stunned ability that, the Jeffrey Epstein plane logs, these are convicted criminal, the January 6th, mass deportations, the dictator for a day stuff, that, the cats and dogs, all these things, and still, this morning Fox and Friends was trying to justify, Hitler had some good generals, and you want to look at it's like, how did this go this way? How are we at this point where there are actual people? I mean, it is quite literally what he said. I could go on Fifth Avenue and shoot someone in the head and everyone would applaud. And if he went to a rally today and he said, I think Adolf Hitler had some of the best generals, it would get an amazingly large round of applause and screams and cheers. You know it. I know it. I think that what's happening is, you're right. I think it's just these aides that are like, this should have been derailed a long time ago, and it's the misunderstanding of the loyalty that Trump has been able to build with the MAGA base directly, that they, no matter what he does, they will never abandon him.
I think there are also some who say they're just looking at the two, and they're saying, I remember how financially things were before. I mean, you saw the Gallup, right? Gallup has never, in the 40 years of asking, are you better off now? And by the way, that's not just an economic question, but in the 40-year history, this is the only time the majority say they're not better off. And I'm not saying that it's just guttural and visceral. But for those people, Matt, I'm not talking about, they're not going to the rallies. They're the ones who might have a sign, Can they be dissuaded from showing up? See, my position is this. The cake is baked. Mm-hmm. There are no undecided voters.
I would agree with that. I agree with that.
What's undecided is, will I show up that day? Right?
Yeah.
So how do you get your turnout? And that's why, and this is what's so different than when you and I were young boys in shorty pants. You had to really push for that weekend before the election. Well, now 50% of the American vote will be in before Election Day. Numbers I heard today, 50%.
Somewhere around there. They're for sure 40, I thought they were saying, yeah.
Right. And we have higher early voting totals than had been anticipated and that had been the case in the past. So the closing argument isn't the closing argument, right? It is what it is right now. Now, and so the theory is those who have already voted, that's the category you can't move, right? Both sides. Yeah. They've already voted. They're in. I'm done.
Yeah.
Can you soften up those who were going to go on Election Day or wait until the last weekend? And that's what that's the focus right now. How do you get people who, if they answered a poll today, how do you get them to just not participate in a week?
Well, and it's also, and for Trump particularly, it's how does he get the other side to not show up? And that's a key to it.
Again, and that's why he's hammering about, and frankly, okay, I'm going to ask, I just want a gut reaction from you.
Yeah.
When he's calling her lazy, which he did.
Yeah.
Is that racist? Is he trying to draw further than say I'm trying to
if you micro niche it down to just that comment. Don't look at Hitler. Don't look at mass deportations now. Don't look at that the comment about I'm not going to bury the soldier because she's $60,000 for a blanking Mexican is too much. If you ignore all that, it's hard to make that statement. But when you look at the full package, it's undeniably racist because cats and dogs eaten by Haitians. It is just, he does this, he finds minority groups. The Congo today came on out and was like, what are you talking about? Our worst and our enemies are coming here. We are not sending people here. Stop lying about the Congo and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. He's a racist pig. He's a racist pig. This is the problem I have is it's easy to sit there and say, well, just look at this one thing and don't like this. No, I'm not going to just do that. He has not earned the right for me to give him excuses after as many years of what he said.
Now, I'm not going to agree with the characterization or disagree. I asked the question because I have not heard anybody say that yet. And it seemed to me, based on the totality of things, I'm just surprised I haven't heard anybody say it.
Well, you should be listening to my show because I've been saying this.
I was doing my own.
Welcome to the party, pal. No, okay. I want to bring up something. You brought up, so you bring up this Gallup closing argument. I got two specific points to get to. The Gallup closing argument. The problem here is this, and I'm going to read from you Axios. This is yesterday. The U.S. economy has defined predictions for recession is on track to continue its world-beating streak of robust growth, according to new forecasts from the International Monetary Fund. We're not talking about the stock market. We're talking about the U.S. economy. The U.S. economy has been on fire. But you talk to people, and they say no. And the reality is I wonder if that metric no longer matters because what you've got 40% of this country who only watch conservative media, who is constantly telling them the economy is bad, whether or not it's bad for them or not. And so it's more just a talking point, like they're communists. Democrats are communists. Well, they're not communists. If you don't understand the basic political structure, that's not the thing. But it becomes one of those things. And it's because of the Chicken Little mentality of the Republicans that everything is the worst, everything's horrible. I just don't think that metric, that question anymore has the strength that it did in that past because there are a lot of people who are just saying it just to say it.
Well, here's something that's interesting because I looked at those numbers because I just wanted to know, right? There has only been one time in history that a majority of people, and the history's 40 years, so it's not forever.
Yeah.
But there's only been one time when a majority of the people said they were better off. And that was 2020. And how'd that turn out?
But you see, here's the problem is that with that. During the pandemic, during the fact that we were all scared out of our minds in our houses, once again, it comes down to a lot of people were watching right-wing news, and the right-wing news are saying, you're so much better off than it was back then.
But my point is, and I think I'm making your point, actually. The 2020 election, you had more than 50% say they were better off, and yet the incumbent did not win. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the thing about that question is everybody has treated it as economically, but it's asked neutrally. Mm-hmm. And so when you have people concerned about safety, whether it's valid or not, and the thing about the economy, the numbers from the government show numbers, right? Okay, so inflation is back down to where it was. But if you're the person pushing the shopping cart, you don't feel it. You know, I don't need to listen to right-wing media to know that I just paid an awful lot more for a roast than I normally pay.
But I push the grocery cart in my family every single week. I do that. My wife, I'd be eating cold cuts and Velveeta slices if I didn't. The reality is that
I'm allowed to go by myself.
When Charlie was a little kid, my son, who's now 23, was a little kid, I remember going there and we would get groceries and it would cost $100 a week. It cost around $300 a week. It's always gone up. Sure, it's the question here is, do you get people like in 2020 when grocery prices went up? They didn't go down in those 4 years. They went up. But yet people ignored that because they wanted to believe a narrative that was being fed to them versus the reality. Now it's easy to say, prices are out of control because the right wants to believe that. The truth is that question has become irrelevant now because of a biased media.
Well, okay. And all I'm saying is I don't need the media to tell me that I'm paying more for gas than I was and that I'm paying more for groceries. Now, does that change my political choice? Well, it's a pretty shallow metric, isn't it? Yeah. If that's all that changes. But I'm just simply saying it's a feeling, not based in fact.
Well, come on back. Jeff Stein joining us here on a Wednesday. It's the Matt McNeil Show. Broadcasting in the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk. In the nighttime hours, 11:50 a.m., KKNW in Seattle, and, of course, live in Minneapolis, St. Paul on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show on your Wednesday. Jeff Stein joining us here. So, Jeff, going back to where we started with this, Hitler, will it matter? Does it matter? Does the fact that the president of the former president of the United States, who's running for president right now, once again praised Hitler, does that matter? Or, it's the same day, different story?
I just love it. It's like the biggest hot take show ever. Hitler, will it matter? Let's discuss.
But this is the ludicrous nature of this. I mean, this sounds like, and we were just talking about SCTV in our text messages. It sounds like an SCTV bit from 1983. Hitler, good or bad? You're like, bad. Yes, bad. He's bad.
It's the McLaughlin group.
Exactly.
That's what it is. By the way, where can people watch the show?
They can watch it. We stream it on YouTube. We stream it on, we have it on the social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, stuff like that.
Okay, so folks, I don't know what happens when I'm not here. The other, whatever it is, 9.5 hours a week, but you need to watch because, Matt's entertaining as all get out. How do I say this? No, it's not going to matter.
It should. And once again, this is not about our personal feelings about this. Obviously, Hitler should matter, but it's not going to because it's Trump.
Well, and I would say, and I'm sorry, but Harris is, I've said this for years, she's not a great candidate. Biden would be better. I still think Biden would be better. That doesn't mean she's not going to win. But, the trick is you got to, if you're somebody who's a Trump supporter, is the Hitler reference now going to move you?
Well, I see what you're saying. What you're saying is for a MAGA voter, that there might be some movement if it was still Biden there, but with Harris there, they just don't like Harris. And I think that's this grass is always greener mentality. I think if Biden was there, they'd say, if Harris was there, I'd go vote for her, but I'm not going to vote for Biden.
Now, to be fair, did you hear anybody prior to Joe Biden getting out say, boy, I sure wish we had Harris. I mean, there was all sorts of national news saying, if Biden gets out, we're stuck with Harris. Now, again, with all due respect, I'm just speaking clinically.
When they started saying he should get out and he was still in the race from late June to mid-July, that's when the Harris thing started really picking up steam. But it wasn't because people didn't think it was the case. I mean, we're not talking about J.D. Vance, although considering Trump's age and whether mental finesse, we should be talking a lot about the potential of President Vance, which Republicans don't want to talk about because Vance's numbers, once again, after that VP debate, tumbled back downwards again.
Here's where you get President Vance. Trump Vance wins the Electoral College. Democrats win the House. Democrats win the Senate. The House impeaches Trump by President's Day, and he is tossed out in a trial by cherry blossom time. And then you get President Vance.
Can he appoint his own? When Vance becomes president, would he appoint his own president, or would Hakeem Jeffries become the vice president?
No, I'm talking about after inauguration.
Yeah, what I'm saying is this: is that okay? So
no. Vance gets to select. Vance selects a vice president to be confirmed by Congress. That's how we got Gerald Ford. Remember, Spiro resigned.
I was just trying to remember that.
Well, and here's the thing: that was recent because when JFK was assassinated, LBJ became president, and there was no vice president until the '64 election. And then they changed the procedures.
Oh, and who was the guy that first happened to? And I can't remember. It wasn't Polk. Was it Polk? Was it? Yeah, it might have been Polk. It was James Polk was he became president after William Henry Harrison died, and then he served out his term. Yeah, exactly.
Nobody there. Right.
So we're looking at a lot of early returns here. I wanted to get your thoughts because one of the things I don't think I'm out on a limb. I don't have specific numbers, but I do believe more Republicans will probably end up voting for Harris than Democrats voting for Trump. I'm not saying there aren't some Democrats who are voting for Trump, but the larger number seems to be there. So when we look at these early returns, do you have any idea? Are you seeing any numbers that gives you an idea? Is it 2, 3, 5%? How many Republicans of those Republican votes that are coming back at the top of the ticket, it's a Harris vote or no vote at all?
Now, when you say returns, you're talking about the early voting?
Early voting or any of the early in-persons. Okay. Have you seen anything that kind of tries to break that down at all?
Well, the only thing you're going to know is party registration because they don't open and count the ballots till after the polls are closed. Yeah. But here's the thing about this. The Republicans have made a big deal about bank your vote, early vote, get out there, get it taken care of, right? So what happens if all of these good Election Day voters, I'm an independent, I vote Election Day, just the way it is, okay? But what if all these Republicans who are now voting early, they don't show up on Election Day? See, everybody's assuming, bank the vote. Look, we're doing so well as Republicans, so many more Republicans voting early than Democrats. There's a second part of the equation, Matt, and that is that you then go and bring other people for Election Day. And the Democrats figured that out long ago. Bank, and then you're free to bring others in. I don't think the Republicans have the second half figured out, and nobody, and again, I had the RNC chair was on the show that I was hosting. I said, well, what are you doing? Oh, we're getting everybody in early. Well, where's the other half?
There's no.
There's
nothing. Their national campaign is in shambles. It is just a mess right now. And I mean, I'm saying that as I've seen these, their campaign is seriously lacking a lot of basics at this point.
He said, well, we have people on the ground in every state. No, you don't. Not doing anything.
Not at all.
In terms of election integrity, you have zero.
Apparently, there was I heard a rumor that they're frantically trying to get people down to Texas now because, Harris is seeing an opportunity there, maybe at the very least to knock out Ted Cruz. But it's an opportunity. One final thing for you here. In regards to North Carolina specifically, the latest poll numbers up, Democrat leading by 15 over Robinson. He's not been able to turn that around. Once again, where's your number at where a guy is that unpopular and it basically pulls down the top of the ticket?
Well, the bottom line is the Democrat running for governor in North Carolina's name is Stein.
Well, it's
I think I've just answered it for you, haven't I?
You have mentioned this like 3 times. Are you sure he's not a relative?
Nobody would claim me, so I'm sure we're not. But what's the number in this close an election? Anything, especially when Trump says, well, I haven't followed the story. I've never met that man.
Historical margins, I think, are really going to get tested in North Carolina this year. Jeff Stein, once again, the Iowa Politics Report. I will post a little bit later on. Jeff, as always, thank you very much. Chicago, Seattle, talk to you tomorrow. Minneapolis, St. Paul, hour 2 up next. Hour number 2 of the show here on your Wednesday. Nice to have you with us. Guest free for the rest of this hour, but I do have some tickets to Maz Jabrani going to be given away a little bit later on. Of course, he's going to be coming in concert to the Varsity Theater, so listen for your chance to win tickets today. I got tickets tomorrow. I got tickets on Friday. So listen for your chance to win those tickets coming up a little bit. Patrick and Matt here. This has been a bit of a brutal, and I don't want to talk too much about sports, but it's been a bit of a brutal stretch here for Minnesota sports. Let's just be honest about it.
Yeah, it has, but it happens.
I mean, the only positive is the Wild one. They beat Florida, which was a good game. Florida's a good team. They jumped out in front of them pretty good last night.
Yeah, Wild have gotten off to a really good start. They haven't actually trailed in a game yet. I mean, they've lost a couple games, but they lost in overtime in those games.
They don't have a regulation loss yet. T-Wolves last night. I just want to say this. I understand home openers and stuff like that, and you're on the road. That Lakers team is not good, man. That Lakers team is not a good team. That's a little concerning for me that they beat you, what was it, by 6 last night? You play the Kings on Thursday is going to be an interesting day because you got the Vikes play that night, the Wild play that night, the T-Wolves play that night. They're at Sacramento. We'll have to see. I mean, are we going to go into this weekend just, Charlie Brown crying because Lucy pulled the football away again? Is that what we're destined for? I really do think it's. And of course the Lynx. We got to put the Lynx in there too. And what happened with them? It was hard watching Colbert last night because he had the mascot for the Liberty out there. He was, they had heard it's an elephant. I have no idea. The person can dance. Whoever's in that costume, they do a pretty good job. Not bad. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Prince, the climatic moments of the film Purple Rain, memorably. Yeah, how many times have you watched the movie Purple Rain?
I actually have not seen the full movie.
You've not? There's always that moment when the Minneapolis police get there, and I said, "Oh boy, this is about to take a turn." No, that's pre-O'Hara cops. Those are 1980 Minneapolis cops. As far as the music is really good, the film and stuff, and Wendy and Lisa, hello, but the film is not. It doesn't hold together as well as far as the script goes. There are some gaps, but at the end of that, he says, "Take a picture, sweetie. I ain't got time to waste." Fans of the Purple One will have to wait a little bit more time before they get to see the forthcoming stage adaptation of their Idol's 1984 hit. Hennepin Arts confirmed this week that the planned debut of the upcoming musical, which was originally set to open this spring at the end of the current season, is now a launch on Thursday, October 16th, 2025. It will run for 1 month thereafter at the State Theater in Minneapolis. Hennepin Arts spokesperson Dale Stark noticed that the delay was to allow for some time for creative development. He added that the ticket holders, subscribers, donors who bought tickets during the flash sale have all been notified they'll be reseated in the corresponding performance dates during the new October and November run. We will do everything we can to accommodate reseating requests through the process. Tickets were not yet available to the general public. I will say this, that who are you going to get to play Prince, man? I mean, who are you getting to play him? This is a once in 100 years talent. His ability to sing, his ability to dance, his ability to play freaking every instrument. Every instrument. Who are you getting? Bruno Mars did pretty good, and Bruno Mars can't play the guitar. I mean, he got the singing down, he got the dancing down when he did for the Grammys. He did that one time. Who are you finding to do this? Ugh. I think creative development is the right thing. The question you have is this: is it just too much talent for you to find one person that can pull it off? And that's a legit question. Can you find somebody that could be Prince? I mean, there's only one Prince, man. There's only one Prince. I will say, too, that, I mean, it was interesting. When I watched the Dylan musical, I saw that Girl from the North Country. They brought that in. That didn't really have anything to do with Dylan. It was just his songs incorporated into a story about Duluth, Minnesota. And, yeah, it was, I think they played it well there. I don't know if you want to do the history of Bob Dylan in a musical sort of thing. But, yeah, you're actually just trying, I mean, Purple Rain is Prince. I mean, that's, hey, I'm going to try to see this. I'm going to go try to see this when it comes on out, and I want to see how they do it. But my God, I mean, that is a big ask. That's a lot of pressure on somebody. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Governor Tim Walz voted early Wednesday at the Ramsey County Elections Office in St. Paul's West Side, joined by First Lady Gwen Walz and son first-time voter Gus Walz. As he stepped up to the counter to collect his ballot, Walz informed the county employee that he was son's first time. He's pretty excited, Walz said. While working on their own ballots, the parents asked their 18-year-old son if he needed help. Gus responded with a resounding no, but he walked with his dad over to the voting machine after both completed the ballots. An election worker called out first-time voter, and Gus fed the machine, and other workers standing by to watch applauded even as other voters arrived to cast their ballots. Walz and his son then high-fived before the governor got back in the black SUV to head back across the parking lot to talk to reporters away from the polling place. The governor did not mention himself, saying he had voted for Vice President Kamala Harris for president, as well as U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar, Betty McCollum, who represents the 4th Congressional District, which includes St. Paul. Yeah, good stuff. I mean, get out there and vote. We do have an absolute glorious system here in the state of Minnesota. It is truly glorious. You got to get out and vote. Now, I want to take some time. I've been meaning to do this because it is important for you to find out what is exactly on your ballot. A few weeks ago, I had Naomi Kritzer on. Naomi Kritzer, her blog, Will Tell Stories for Food, breaks down the lesser races on these ballots. Now, she particularly is in Minneapolis, St. Paul. She does stuff for Ramsey County, Hennepin County. But my ballot actually matches up with a lot of the analysis that she's done here. And so I'm going to go and talk about what she has posted. I want to highly, highly encourage you to go to Naomi Kritzer's blog, Will Tell Stories for Food, and follow what she is posting there, because I think it's very important. But particularly, we have a constitutional ballot question. I'll get to that in a little bit. But we have 4 judge races. And I want to tell you, Naomi, I am just such a fan of hers. She is so freaking awesome because she is doing a lot of research on these races. Now, I got a ton of judge races on my ballot. I only got 4 of them where there's actually a challenger. And she actually has looked at all 4 of those races, and she has analysis here. This is the first one is a judgeship in Hennepin County. This is, I believe, let me if I can tap dance here for a quick second here, Patrick. I'm going to pull up my sample ballot. I meant to do that. I kind of lost it there a little bit here. So I'm going to pull up my sample ballot. What's on my ballot? That's where there's the money. There's view your sample ballot. Let me enter my zip code. This is how easy it is, by the way. I'm up on mnvotes.org or myballot.mn.sos.mn.gov. But myvotes.org gives you all the information that you need. Let's see here. Just type in my address. Once I type in the zip code, you type in the address of your residence. All right. And it gives you the question here. And I specifically want to pull this up because I want to pull up the specific races I'm about to talk about and be able to give you a little bit more details about that. All right. So and once again, like a lot of people, I've got a lot of people on these ballots, a lot of races that are not contested, but there's a few that are. The first one that she has here is a judge race between Matthew Frank and Christopher Leckrone, Leckrone. And once again, it's important that you're paying attention to these races. This is for 4th District Judge, District Court 24. All right? 4th District Judge, Hennepin County, Court 24. This is a judgeship in Hennepin County. Voters in Hennepin County will see this race on their ballots. So if you're in Hennepin County, which a lot of people are, you'll see Matthew Frank, who's the incumbent, versus Christopher Leckrone, Leckrone. If I'm not saying that correctly, I apologize. Matthew Frank was appointed by Governor Walz in 2023. There are basically 2 really straightforward reasons to vote for Judge Frank and not his opponent. One of the foundational experiences lawyers should have if they want to become a judge is to spend time in court. You can be a prosecutor, defense attorney, or a litigator, but you really do need to be going to court. According to his resume, Christopher Leckrone has worked for many years primarily in compliance, a job done entirely outside of courtrooms. He does list pro bono work with foster kids that might involve going into the courtroom, but that's very clearly not what he's spending most of his time doing. His website says he worked as a prosecutor, so I checked his resume again. He worked for the DA's office in Middlesex, Massachusetts. This is not, as she says, I stand by my assessment, this is not someone bringing a wealth of courtroom experience to the table. Matthew Frank was one of the lead prosecutors in the state's case against Derek Chauvin. Now I think you understand why there's a challenger here. He's one of the lead prosecutors in the state's case against Derek Chauvin, and of the 19 judges in Hennepin County up for election this year, that's the guy Leckrone decided to run against. Leckrone was a completely hidden or sanitized social media presence. I found no indication of his political views except that he opted to run against this particular judge. It's not just that Frank is new. A cursory check quickly turned up several judges appointed in 2022, 2023. There's other judges so as well that he could be running against. There's some other reason Leckrone decided to run against him. This seems by far the most likely that he was one of the prosecutors against Derek Chauvin. Not saying it is, but it just we can only speculate. That's all we're doing. Frank is well qualified. Leckrone is not. I would vote for Judge Frank. So, thank you once again to Will Tell Stories for Food. Matthew Frank probably deserves your vote. I mean, I'm going to vote for him. You educate yourself on this. Once again, the blog is Will Tell Stories for Food. The second judge race. This is Diane Bratvold, the incumbent, versus Jonathan Woolsey. Let me make sure I find out where this one is. There it is. It is Judge Court of Appeals 12. And once again, these are nonpartisan races, but once again, there's also stories coming out here in the state of Minnesota. There's a lot of people that are running as Republicans and telling everyone, I'm the Republican in this race. That's what they're saying now. So these are supposed to be nonpartisan, but, Republicans got a Republican. Court of Appeals 12, Judge 12. This is in Hennepin County. So Diane Bratvold, Jonathan Woolsey. So first of all, early voting has started, and your website says coming soon. You're not a serious candidate, but I fell down the Google rabbit hole here, so you're going to have to hear my story of what I found. When I looked up Jonathan Woolsey, and I found were a whole lot of court cases and appeals going all the way back up to the state Supreme Court involving a divorce with a child custody case. Woolsey divorced his wife in 2014 when his daughter was an infant. There is no way to directly link this stuff in the Minnesota court records online system, but I dug through the divorce filings and found that by the fall of 2014, his ex had an order for protection against him, and exchanges of their daughter happened at the police department. The OFP presumably ended at some point, but he appears to have repeatedly over the last decade filed endless requests to modify one thing or another, dragging his ex back into court over and over. The most recent court decision from this year included things like Jonathan Woolsey's request to have his daughter communicate with him by text is denied as he does not own a cell phone, and Halloween will be removed from the holiday schedule. Is that what's going on here? Maybe not, but the fact that his ex not only got an order of protection but was able to have it extended at least once sure makes it look like that's a pattern. Anyway, 2020, there was a case that made it all the way up to the state Supreme Court. The state Court of Appeals panel ruled against him, so I checked. Yep, Dan Bratvold appears to have been one of the lawyers who ruled, so my guess is that's why he's running against her. So we don't know. And once again, this is a speculation thing, but it seems like possibly one of the reasons why he's running against Bratvold is because he himself has a personal history on an appeals case. So once again, Diane Bratvold will have my vote. Thank you very much to the Will Tell Stories for Food blog. Once again, she's going to have my vote for sure. And once again, thank God somebody is doing this. Thank God somebody is doing this. I'll do one more here before we get into the break. This is, we have another judge race here. This is the case of Carl Procaccini, 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 and Matthew R. Hansen. And once again, Procaccini, if I'm mispronouncing your name, I do apologize. This is Associate Justice on the Supreme Court 6. So this is for the Supreme Court race here. Associate Justice on Supreme Court. This is seat 6. The breakdown here from Naomi. This little statewide contest will be on everyone's ballot since it's the state Supreme Court on the ballot. Carl Procaccini was appointed recently, August 2023, by Tim Walz. At the time he was appointed, there was some concern about the fact that his former client included 3M PolyMet and Flint Hills Resources. At the time he was appointed, he assured everyone that he would recuse himself from any future cases involving his former clients, and I found nothing suggesting that he hasn't. He was also Walz's former general counsel, which meant that he was involved in various executive orders that Walz issued during the pandemic. That seems to be the main reason Matthew Hansen is running. Procaccini led the legal team that drafted the governor's executive orders against the COVID-19 lockdowns. It is basically the only case that he makes on his website to vote for him or against the incumbent. Hansen ran, and once again, so it seems like this is a direct result of COVID-19 lockdowns. Hansen ran in 2022 in Scott County, and Naomi's father helpfully researched that race. He noted 2 years ago the challenger graduated from Mitchell Hamlin and passed the bar in 2018. Other than as a student, he had little, if any, courtroom experience. This is a guy running for the Supreme Court of the state of Minnesota. His website says he worked with a small firm during commercial litigation. He's had 3 jobs since graduating from law school, and it's not clear what he's currently doing. That's a thoroughly underwhelming resume for a potential judge, let alone a potential state Supreme Court judge. His Twitter is kind of interesting. Retweets of Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, a lot of failed Minnesota Republican candidates, a whole lot of fear-mongering about non-citizens voting. That's 5 minutes of scrolling down. Yikes. Procaccini would probably be the other candidate. I will, getting this information, once again, would you take the time to find this out? So in this race, Procaccini, the incumbent, is probably the one you want to vote for here. I've got another judge race, and I got the Minnesota constitutional thing. I think it's important. Now, I will say this. The state Supreme Court races are going to be on everyone's ballot. But if I can, I want to make sure you do understand. A lot of people don't fill out those. So a guy like this can actually, with very limited experience and a social media footprint that is terrifying, can somehow win a seat on the Minnesota Supreme Court. That's horrifying. That is horrifying. Naomi does a great job with her website. I know there are people across the state in each of the counties and stuff that have this information as well. Research it. And at the very least, whatever your ballot says, take 5 minutes and go and look at social media. And if you see a profile there, what kind of information is there? If you can't find any social media profile anywhere, that should also be a huge red flag, or a website for the candidate. That should be a huge red flag. There should be something on this individual. So keep that in mind. When I come on back, I'll talk about one more judge race and the state constitutional amendment race. 952-946-6205. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Wednesday. AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. Maz Jabroni is coming to the Varsity Theater on Friday, November 15th. It's the Mr. International Comedy Tour. I got a pair of tickets right now to give away. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Caller number 5, you get to go see Maz Jabroni over at the Varsity Theater, Mr. International Comedy Tour, November 15th. Good luck. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. So, going back, and once again, I really cannot recommend enough the solid work Naomi Kritzer is doing. Will Tell Stories for Food. This is the blog. We had her on the air to talk about her writing and talk about this blog a few weeks ago, where she basically goes to these down-ticket races and does a deep dive into who each of these candidates are. And as you look, I mean, once again, I've got only 4 contested judge races on my ballot this year. All 4 of them she's already done an analysis of in Hennepin County. Once again, she does mostly Hennepin and Ramsey County, so Minneapolis, St. Paul, that area. So she's mostly done that stuff. But once again, she's doing such an invaluable service because she has definitely found, in some cases, behavior and actions which negate someone voting for someone else. Going back to my ballot, I do have, by the way, I do have to admit, my county commissioner is County 6, so that gives me Edelson versus Marissa Simonetti. Yeah. Simonetti, of course, is, as I've mentioned, the best way to describe her is she's the Spider Woman of Edina. That's the woman that threw the spider down the stairs, the tarantula down the stairs. Yeah. I've got that one on there. I think I can probably take care of that ballot right now. But one of the lesser races. Well, this is not a lesser race. As far as a judge race, this is the top race in the state. This is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Natalie Hudson, versus Stephen A. Emery. This is the only other I've had. Like I said, 4 contested judge races on my ballot. Natalie Hudson, Stephen Emery. Emery has an interesting history. First, he ran for U.S. Senator as the DFL primary in 2018 against Amy Klobuchar. I noticed at the time he was hair-raisingly conservative, absolutely not someone anyone should vote for in the DFL primary, even if they disliked Amy Klobuchar. In 2018, he described himself as a pro-life, pro-traditional family, pro-gun, pro-private enterprise, responsible immigration. He ran in the DFL primary. His website included gems like, I will advocate and vote in such a way as to promote the decree of the Creator for mankind to take dominion over the earth and subdue it and be fruitful and multiply. I would advocate to vote and defund the promotion of evolution. He also wanted to disband the UN because it's too pro-Muslim. In 2022, he ran for and won a race to be a county attorney in Yellow Medicine County. Wow. Only to then refuse to accept the position. The guy he defeated was appointed. Also in 2022, he was promoting election denial propaganda. If you want to ever know that you can go out, if you can go into red districts and you can be grossly unqualified for a position. But if you sound the most MAGA that you can MAGA-ly be, that you will win. That's just, yeah, you will. It's a little surprise his website for the judicial rate starts off with a long anti-corporate rant, but shows up with the title Conservative Representation for Minnesota when you Google. Anyway, absolutely do not for this guy. This is Naomi writing this on her blog. Natalie Hudson is fine. I'm going to vote for her. And so should everyone else. Seriously, even if you're very conservative and would prefer a Chief Justice not appointed by a DFLer, you don't want Emery. If you're very conservative and you prefer a Chief Justice not appointed by a DFLer, I'm going to suggest you move to Iowa because the Minnesota GM endorsed Royce White for U.S. Senate this year. It's not the choice of a serious party who wants to win statewide elections at some point in the future. Naomi, you are just freaking awesome. She is. Naomi Kritzer. She also, she did bring up the point. Now, I actually just copied this off of, if you go to the mnvotes.org, this is when Steve Simon was on with us, there is a constitutional amendment on the ballot that is something you're going to, it's a yes or no vote. And so, and if you pull up your ballot, it actually has a link to the constitutional amendment. And so let me read this for you. This is, I'm going to just go through the rules first, and then I'll get to the amendment. Okay. Failure to vote on a constitutional amendment will have the same effect as voting no on the amendment. So I want to repeat that. Failure to vote on a constitutional amendment will have the same effect as voting no on the constitutional amendment. To vote for a proposed constitutional amendment, fill in the oval next to the word yes on that question. To vote against a proposed constitutional amendment, fill in the oval next to the word no on that question. Here is the constitutional question. Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund Renewal. shall the Minnesota Constitution be amended to protect drinking water sources and the water quality of lakes, rivers, and streams, conserve wildlife habitat and natural areas, improve air quality, and expand access to parks and trails by extending the transfer of proceeds from the state-operated lottery to the Environmental and Natural Resources Trust Fund and to dedicate the proceeds for those purposes. Oh, yeah. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yes. In conclusion, yes, yes. You want to vote for that constitutional amendment. I've said this numerous times. You know, we're starting to wake up, and I'm glad we are. The Native American people of Minnesota have been screaming for years, you better start preserving this water because it ain't being preserved many other places. And we need to do it. Line 3 is still a little bit of a problem for me, Governor Walz, but what's done is done. Needless to say, we have something here that is spectacular. Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes, is just a beautiful haven for water, and we should do everything in our freaking power to make sure it stays that way. Because right now, whether it's corporate entities trying to pollute the living daylights out of the water supplies, or if it's large corporations trying to buy up water rights and charge people for something that we get quality, delicious water out of our taps. Do you know how few communities have that anymore? Seriously. You can get tap water out of there. I mean, we're already seeing what happens with the wells, whether it's corporate ag draining down the water tables, or it's, phosphorus and fertilizers poisoning the water wells. We need to be fighting for quality water. And we have it for the most part here. We still need a lot of things we need to do. We got a lot of things we do. I think we should, frankly, let the Native Americans take over control of it because every idea they have seems to be spot on. Frankly, I think what should we do? Let's do it that way. I 100% agree. That being said, yes, you vote on that one. Do not leave that constitutional question blank. If you leave it blank, that's the same as a no vote. Vote for that. That's one of the great things about this state is that we have so much common sense here. If you explain what something is going to be used for and here's where it's going to go, we generally do it. So pay attention to your ballot. Once again, the fantastic webpage, the blog for Naomi Kritzer is Will Tell Stories for Food. She is a goddess. I love you. Thank you very much for this information because you help me out greatly. Find out what's on your ballot. Go to mnvotes.org. You can get the sample ballot there. Take a look at any judge races where there's a contended race. And you make sure you educate yourself on how they're going to be. Or you could be like Yellowknife County, or Yellow Medicine County, where they basically elect some guy who clearly is unqualified and that doesn't want to take the job when he wins. Make sure you're an educated voter because every race matters. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. We'll take a break. Come on back. The Matt McNeil Show here on your Wednesday. It is the Matt McNeil Show. By the way, congratulations, John, in Minneapolis. You've got those tickets to go see Miles Jabrani. We've got tickets to give away tomorrow, tickets to give away on Friday. So make sure you're listening for your chance to win right here on AM 950, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. By the way, I can't tell you how happy I am that Naomi did this. I get asked all the time on elections, especially by friends in my area district, whether it's my school board or city council or stuff like this, what I think about certain things. And sometimes it's easy to find out that information. Sometimes it's not. And Naomi doing all that work for us, that's news you can use right there. There's been a lot of talk about this next story. I've seen multiple stories about this. When Owatonna Public Schools first received a data request probing into its practices and curriculum on equity and race, It was given 35 days to turn over a mountain of documents. 3 years later, and after nearly $300,000 in taxpayer money, the school district is still working to fulfill the request made by a local group that includes April St. Martin, a candidate running for Owatonna School Board in the 2024 election. Chris Pica, P-I-C-H-A, director of the Human Resources for the district, is finally nearing the end of the process after countless hours. In August of 2021, local advocacy group United Patriots for Accountability, UPA, submitted the largest data request Pica has ever seen. The request included any data related to the application of an equity plan or any equity assessments carried out by the outside party within the district. The group also sought access to correspondence within the district, including 26 keywords such as critical race theory, ethnic studies, Black Lives Matter, and systemic racism. Now you can see where they're coming from. At the time of the request, the district informed UPA that 35 days was not enough to obtain the volume of data requested. Even after the group eliminated several search terms, Pica estimated the request encompassed 750,000 to 1 million pages of documents. I think they truly believe it was a reasonable request, said Pica. The attorney that supported them knew, I'm sure, I think they thought it could pull all the data, and here it is. According to Minnesota statutes, UPA may inspect all the data requests at no charge. The request, and once again, people who are upset about wasteful taxpayer spending, wasting taxpayer dollars at an incredible rate. The request was submitted through the Upper Midwest Law Center, which describes itself as a pro-freedom firm dedicated to fighting government, overreach, and left-wing special interest agendas. Members of the UPA were regular attendees of school board meetings in Owatonna in 2021, speaking against critical race theory and equity. While the group itself has grown relatively quiet on social media, St. Martin is not the only notable member of the group who has gone on record in the past regarding the data request and her involvement. Deb Gnemny, G-N-E-M-I, Gnemny, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, Gnemny, wife of Steele County Commissioner Rick Gnemny, who is seeking another term, was also a member of the group at the time the data request was made and spoke about the need for transparency with the district. Other individuals who have linked to the group and the data requests are Angie Lange, Chris Call, and Naomi Jirele, J-I-R-E-L-E. Nemi stated she has not been involved with UAPA in the last year, but directed the People's Press to speak with Jirele and St. Martin as the main people involved. Pica said UPA members, primarily St. Martin, have reviewed the documents roughly once a month for 3 to 4 hours at a time. Pica said St. Martin is also the person who has been the one calling her to schedule and supervise reviewings. St. Martin confirmed she has been on the UPA members who has reviewed documents, but and by the way, once again, costing the school district $300,000 in taxpayer dollars. $300,000. But said Monday she no longer involved in the data review. When asked by the People's Press, St. Martin said she did not have enough time to discuss her involvement in the data request. According to Pica, St. Martin last visited the district office for a document viewing as recently as Thursday, September 12th, less than 2 weeks ago. But now all of a sudden she has nothing to do with it, now that it's just starting to get public attention. Speaking on behalf of UPA member Natalie Plumley, said the group is not yet ready to discuss the request for their motivations for making it. I think we know what your motivations are making this. I mean, I don't think you're a mystery of the ages. I hope the fog clears here. No, I think we can figure out just what your data request standards are and who the law firm that represents it. I think we got a pretty good idea of what's going on here. Plumley said she'd been involved with UPA for the past 3 years, but recently stepped up her involvement with the group. It is the community's job to inquire what the schools are teaching, said Plumley, declining to comment further. Well, I don't think you're asking about what they're teaching. I think you're asking about correspondence and other things, dog whistle stuff that basically, my guess is you're trying to find a aha moment. That's what you're trying to do. And I don't know if you're going to find it. And all you're doing is wasting $300,000 worth of Owatonna School District money. Members of the UPA that have traced the group's origins to an elective one-semester course entitled Critical Race Theory was the only formerly available to upperclassmen at Owatonna High School through Minnesota State University Mankato. Pika said the most data requests involved fewer than 50 pages. She's seen only one other request that was over 100. However, the size of the request itself was not the main issue. The Minnesota Government Data Practices Act allows individuals to request public data from government entities such as public school districts, but many of the documents requested contained the host of private information, including students' names. All that data had to be redacted, a process that proved to be costly and time-consuming. So you're getting 1 million pages, and they've got one person who has to go slowly through this and redact names and stuff. And once again, this is a data request from 3 years ago, and they're still starting to work through it because it's 1 million pages. In November of 2021, UPA submitted an additional data request seeking correspondence between the district and a reporter with the People's Press regarding the first data request. According to Pika, the cost of fulfilling the data request has risen to $298,000 as of July. The bulk of that money was paid to Ratchet, Rosick, and Maloney, a law firm that assisted with the redaction process. Other expenses included a subscription for redaction software and the sheer volume of paper. Well, this is $300,000 out of the Owatonna School District on a fishing expedition by the sounds of it. Pika said contracting to an outside party to help was costly enough and that hiring a firm to handle the entire request would have been prohibitively expensive. She briefly considered training someone to assist her in the redaction, but estimated that training someone to properly sift public from private data would have taken several months. Notably, the price tag doesn't reflect the hours Pika has spent redacting the documents. Oh, you poor woman. She has worked weekends and evenings in order to fill the request while she's performing her regular duties and has not charged the district for those additional hours. God, you should be getting paid for this. The first year was the most difficult part of the process. Pika said she spent 720 hours working on the request in that time frame and has since stopped keeping track. For those first 6 months, I really didn't get much sleep because I was so worried about this timeline. Pika informed the UPA she could not keep at the pace and that the group was amenable to more relaxed timeline. She said the group was also struggling to find the time to review the documents once they'd been redacted. So all of a sudden, the importance of this wasn't that important to them by the sounds of it. After being redacted, the documents became public data. Members of the UPA must review the documents in person under PICA's supervision. They are allowed to take pictures of documents and disseminate them as they choose, and they can also purchase copies of documents. The MGDPA allows government entities to charge up to 25 cents per page of copies, provided the request is fewer than 100 pages. If the case is larger requests, however, it permits government entities to include the expenses of searching for and retrieving data in the fee. Pika said they have purchased copies of a few documents, but have primarily relied on taking pictures. Because, they have no problem spending $300,000 worth of taxpayer dollars, but if all of a sudden they had to spend $5,000 of their own money, well, that's a bridge too far. Pika noted that due to the similarity of some of the items included in the request, many of the remaining documents are the ones UPA has likely reviewed multiple times already. By the time you get here, because some of the terms were so similar, you're going to see a lot of the same information. It might be the same email 5 times. You have whiteness, white privilege, she said. Pika disposes of documents a year and a half after UPA has reviewed them. When district staff moved to the current office of the school district, Pika said she found 25 filing cabinets full of documents related to the request. Now the closing weeks of the process, she's looking forward to crossing the finish line. I will celebrate when this is over. Now, this is not the only story. There have been multiple stories where school districts have been basically crippled because of unreasonable requests for data because I know they're up to something. And let me just, what it sounds like is happening a lot across this state is there are people saying, I want to see 1 million documents. Now, I read Stephen King's The Stand unabridged. I think that was like 1,400 pages. And it took me about 4 weeks to get through it, and that's a very good book, by the way. I remember reading the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I read the Harry Potter books. I mean, those are nothing compared to 1 million pages you say you want to review.
I think it's because they didn't know what they were getting into. They thought it's going to be right there in the first 3 pages, the hard evidence that they're doing things we don't like, and then, it's going to take me a long time. Screw that.
I think the redaction thing, too, might have thrown them for a bit of a curve. That the fact that, he's like, here is this student that's talking about this, and Once again, this is a request from 2021, and they still have yet to get it done down in Owatonna. This is happening everywhere. And it's because of these right-wing, and once again, I want to make sure these are the same people that generally scream about, you're wasting my taxpayer dollars. And they are wasting, in this one school district alone, $300,000. I can't even comprehend how much money they've wasted in all the school districts across the country that have this. I can't even comprehend how much money they've wasted to find a supposed aha moment, which they just not found. It doesn't sound like it. Let alone taking people away from their regular jobs and duties to perform this sometimes insane thing. Now, here's what I'm going to say. I think that it's clear, because this whole thing is getting abused, that you have to do, I think the state needs to incorporate three things. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to have access to this data, but I think you do the following four things. The following four things, and that is the case. Now, first of all, to request this data, you can do this anonymously. I think that's garbage. That number one, you should have to put your name and address down on any request. It should not be something where somebody potentially from out of state is putting in these requests. So, one, the person has to put their name down. Two, the priority is for people who are in the school district versus people who are not. Because another thing I've seen in other stories of this is there are people who are sitting in one house up in, say, Duluth, and they're filing these data requests in all these other districts. Well, that's fine if you really want to look at them, but the priority is anyone in the local district. Doesn't mean you get pushed off. It means that if someone in the local district has asked for something, that jumps to the front of the line. Number three is you should not be able to request more than 1,000 pages at once, which is still a massive job. And once again, Unabridged The Stand from Stephen King is like 1,400 pages. It's a long freaking book. 1,000 pages is a lot. And so I think you should put a maximum amount of pages that an individual can ask for at once. If they have one ask in, they can't make another ask. They can only ask for 1,000 pages. After they review those pages, then they can ask for more. So no anonymity. Local people take priority. 1,000 pages, and you can't request a second thing until you've reviewed those 1,000 pages. And here's the most important thing. You have to review those in school wherever you request them. If you fail to do so, once the documents are approved within 45 days, you can no longer file another request because you're just wasting people's time at that point. Now, this completely preserves, if you have a data request that's got a legitimate question and you even want to pester a school district and make them pay $300,000, you can still do that. It just is, you need to basically not be anonymous. You need to, you're going to get priority if you're in the school district, that you can only review 1,000 documents at once and you have to go and see those documents before you can request the next group of documents. And if you fail to review those documents, you're within 45 days of them being available to you, then we're going to deem that you're wasting people's time and that you can't request them again for another year. Your rights are still intact. At this point, we have to save the school districts from writos from themselves who just don't even understand what they're asking, are hoping for a quick smoking gun. They're not finding it, and they're wasting probably, think about the millions of dollars worth of taxpayer dollars in the state they are wasting with these frivolous and pointless data requests. You guys, we got to save you from yourselves. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Take a break, come back, wrap up the show when we return. It's the Matt McNeil Show on your Wednesday.
I'm a hog for you, babe.
The Matt McNeil Show. Nice to have you with us. No, you said something there about things. There's people out there that want to be the hero of their own story, and they'll watch something. You ever watch the great movie In the Name of the Rose?
Yeah.
That one with Daniel Day-Lewis and where she finally finds the documents that prove that he's innocent. That wasn't one day. That was years and years of her and work. And fine. I mean, if you want to try to do that, realize there are people that are doing that. They don't ever find any dang thing. And I think it's people they're thinking to themselves they're going to walk into the school and they're going to open up and it's like, oh my God. Black Lives Matter is taking over the school. I don't know what you think you're going to find. But what you do is you find basically a lot of people are like, okay, fine, here it is. It costs only $300,000 I guess we don't need to get a new gym or need to expand out busing or anything like that. As long as you got your documents that you come in and look for 5 minutes and then get rid of. Yeah. 952-946-6205. One thing I did want to mention here, and very quickly I have to mention this, it has to do with the story from yesterday. This is Cooligan was talking about this. The Otsego Homeowners Association charged residents more than $18,000 each to replace their roofs, resulting in at least one foreclosure, leading residents to question whether the decision was made in the best interest of the community. They're especially alarmed that the Homeowners Association board steered the roofing work to a contractor that's a subsidiary of their property manager. Yeah. That's gutsy, man. That is you have to use my firm here. And yeah, I'm glad I don't, homeowners associations, nope. I'm glad I'm not part of that. Native Roots Radio is up next. You'll be smarter. Stay here and make sure you listen to them. We are back on a Thursday. Till then, see ya.